Hi, everybody. Welcome to Let's Have a Talk with Keith. I know we've been on a little hiatus, and I am roaring and getting back into action to talk about all things, everything. And today I have a very special treat. A lot of people would not know this, about me, but I actually serve on a board that helps promote pageantry. And most people are like, Keith, pageantry, how did you ever get into this? And I'm like, look, I got friends that ask me to do some weird and wacky things sometimes, but I'm always willing to stretch, my own personal self and to go out there and discover some new things. And so today I have the pleasure of talking with one of my new friends that I work with on this board that is also in this beauty pageant world. You don't get to see her face, but I do. So I will be like, hey, it's a wonderful life. And so today I want to welcome Miss Maddie Kaufman to Let's Have a Talk with Keith. Maddie, welcome. Thank you for getting out here. She was like, Keith, I love to talk, so I'm glad to have you.
I'm so excited. Like you said, I love to talk. I love to have a good conversation and, conversations are beautiful and that they take you places you never expected. So, I'm excited.
It is. And when I was talking with Maddie, I said, Maddie, tell me about you. Who are you? And she rolled off all these things. And I said, wow, maybe I need to go back and start asking myself, who am I? Maddie is an educator. She said that she is an introverted extrovert. She's going to have to explain that. And she said she's a public speaker. She says she's a nerd. We might be nerds in we might be nerds in common, and I love to read as well. And so it is a pleasure to learn those little things. But first, but first, you've got to tell me, how are you a introverted extrovert? How does that work?
So, I came across this on the internet a couple of years ago, and I just felt like it so encapsulated who I am. Um, I tend to be very timid when people meet me, and in some certain social situations, I tend to be very shy. But once I know people, I am very talkative. I'm very out there. I love to work a room. I love to work a crowd, and pageants have helped me with that a lot because I've learned, I've gained the ability to speak to people that I don't know. But definitely, I have my moments where if I don't know people, I'm just gonna kind of keep to myself, but if I know you, I will talk your ear off.
So you mentioned, crowds and getting used to people, but you are in pageantry. Now,
Mhm.
I am a singer and I've sung in front of a lot of people, but I don't know if I could do what you do. What got you interested into doing, pageantry, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I started in pageants when I was around 12. My mom did pageants when she was younger. She did like her high school pageant and a couple of pageants around her community. And so I was like, I want to do that. Like, that's a good way for me and my mom to bond. Funny enough, I didn't end up doing them with my mom. My dad at the time was dating someone who had always done pageants with his sister. And so my stepdad's name is Greg. And so I ended up um, doing pageants with Greg. And so my stepdad and I ended up traveling across the state, getting involved in pageants and stuff. And I did them all throughout high school. And then in college, I started in the Miss America system. And so I competed for Miss South Carolina for the first time after my freshman year of college, and I fell in love with it. I just felt like more than any other pageant, it pushed me to grow and it pushed me to really become the best version of myself and challenge myself. And I'm somebody who is always looking for those opportunities to become a better person, to expand on what I know. And so yeah, ever since then, the past 4 years, 5 years, I have been competing, um, building connections within the community, working on my community service projects, all of those things. And so, yeah, so that's where I'm at kind of right now. That's how I joined. That's how I met Ebony. That's how I joined the pop board, which I'm super grateful for. So just building up confidence in all of these opportunities has made me fall in love with it.
Well, and that's pretty awesome because you got competing for Miss South Carolina. I'm like, how many people could be like, "Hey, I was competing for Miss South Carolina," and
Yeah, it's such a privilege, and to be able to say that I've made the top 10 as well, is truly a huge accomplishment too. So I'm grateful for that.
then out of all the ladies that are in the state, you know,
Right, right.
here I am, doing this thing. Now you're also a teacher. And so, when you said you were a teacher, I was like, she has that teacher voice. I can imagine she's in her classroom. Okay, class, turn to page 440. We're gonna go study something today. How are you enjoying that?
Yeah, my family jokingly always says that I never turn it off. My sister in particular gets super annoyed because she's like, Maddie, you are being a teacher right now, and this is not the time or the place. We'll be in the middle of like the grocery store or something. So it never truly goes away. But I do love teaching. I'm in my second year, so I'm still quite new into the profession. My coworkers all say, "You're still green, you'll get jaded after a couple years." But I really do love it. I'm definitely learning a lot, especially in my second year. Um, I've experienced a lot of growth, and my current class is challenging me a lot. So it's again pushing me to grow, pushing me to become better. So it's fun. It's always something. It's always interesting. But I enjoy it.
And here's my last one before we get. What makes you a nerd? Why do you think you're a nerd?
So I really am. I grew up on the Harry Potter books and Star Wars. And so those are like my two big Marvel too. I love those three fandoms like with all my heart. I can dominate some Harry Potter trivia. I can I spent a long period of my childhood like memorizing nerdy songs to like remember weird things. Like for example, I know a song to list all of the kings and queens of England. For what reason, I don't know, but I can list them all in order. Um, I know, like, I have a song to memorize the circumference of a circle, like all of these things. So I just have like weird knowledge that I just kind of bring in, random facts, kind of like an encyclopedia in some ways. I just spout random bouts of knowledge.
And and that is so odd because sometimes I'll be talking to people. I'm like, this is just some useless knowledge for you. You'll probably never hear this again, but here is your knowledge. And I am a big Star Wars fan. I am a big Marvel fan. I'm a big Star Trek fan. So
Hmm.
we'll have some good conversations offline talk. We'll have to have some Star Wars
Oh
talk,
yeah. Oh yeah.
offline. We'll talk some more about that Star Wars, and especially with the Marvel universe, because I was just thinking about going to watch the Marvels that just came out, and everyone is so deadpanning it. But I said, if you're everyone's deadpanning it, it probably can't be that bad. It's probably going to be pretty good, but not what you might have quote unquote expected from a more traditional Marvel movie. But they were in the middle of a strike, so they couldn't promote it. They couldn't do, the normal things that you would have to do in a movie. And so, yeah, it's going to feel a little disjointed because of coming off that strike. But I'm going to go
Right.
watch it anyway because I want to see what it's like. I don't take no one's opinion. I'm the Marvel.
Right.
I'm the Marvel nerd, so I'm all in.
And I think people are so like stuck on phase one of Marvel, like the classic Thor, Iron Man, Captain America. They're so
Oh,
stuck on like pre-Endgame.
mm,
And so it's gonna be a really hard sell for them to get into these like later phases of the universe. And so I think it's just gonna be, you know, convincing people to go and build it up and in preparation for the upcoming Avengers movies.
oh yeah. I mean, I think one of my favorite lines from the Avengers was when um, Dr. Banner had came out and Captain America was like, "Okay, we need the Hulk. It's time to get angry." And he
Yeah.
looked at him and he said, "That's my secret." I'm always angry. I
Angry.
mean, that's a classic line right there. Then he turned into the Hulk.
Oh
That's
yeah.
classic. It doesn't get any better than that. And so that's why I'm really hoping that as the universe expands, it will move. So I want to talk to you about this. Tell me about this. Maddie has a passion. Maddie has an interest at her in her heart. Maddie has a project that she wants everyone to know about. And so this gets out to a few different countries. So tell the world, and this is literally you telling the world,
Hmm.
what is your platform that you care about?
Yeah, so when I was 10 years old, my dad came out as gay. And at the time, my parents were married. My dad was a pastor in our local Lutheran church. And so it rocked my world and it, challenged my worldview on so many things. I mean, like to a 10-year-old getting divorced, like your parents getting divorced is one thing, but your dad coming out as gay at a time when it's very controversial is a whole other. And being a pastor, having grown up in church. So that it kind of inspired my love for diversity, equity, and inclusion because I grew up with a heart for serving others, and growing up in church, seeing that to love others as Jesus has loved us, and all of those things. So I that grew into the Love Thy Neighbor initiative, and basically the purpose of it is to educate others about diversity, about equity and inclusion, because diversity is a fact of life, and inclusion and justice is where we need to be going. Um, and so just, having conversations with as many people as possible, expanding on resources so that businesses, schools, companies can all have access to more diversity resources. We can have these conversations. All of those kinds of things are under the umbrella of what I advocate for and kind of my purpose, my goal in pageants, but also in everyday life.
So, but right now, DEI is such a dirty word. It's
Hmm.
kind of that word that no one really wants to talk about, or they'll say we're really past it. So, Maddie, we're past that initiative. So, why is it important if we've already grown past it?
You would think that you really would, but there's always a place for it, and there's always conversations about it need to continue happening because there's always people that are going to misunderstand others. There's always people that are going to be um, hateful or rude to other people based off of something that that person can't control. Even now, I know several people that still are very homophobic, and that people that are still um, anti-trans or xenophobic or racist or any of those things, and not immediately close to me, but out in the world. And those people still existing, people still having that mindset proves that we need it all the more because at this point in time, we should be past it and people think that we're past it, but we still have so much work to do.
So, if you wanted to leave three good impressions, I like the hashtag love thy neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone out there who may not think that, that DEI surrounds that love your neighbor, how would you really explain that to them about, hey, this is why you should love your neighbor?
Mm-hmm. It's really hard. I just love kind of doing what we're doing right now, having conversations with people, getting to know people. I'd really want to kind of learn what makes that person, a person in particular, tick. And anyone out there, I'd want them to think about what they love, what drives them. Everyone loves something, even if it's money. It's everyone loves something, right? And just thinking about how does that thing you love impact other people, right? Because we're all interconnected as a society. Everything that we do affects other people. in this world that we live in, you are never isolated. Not a single thing you do does not affect another person. So thinking about how your actions affect other people, how could you how could you be intentional with those actions, and how could, you know, knowing that you affect other people, how could that impact, how you interact with people? I don't think that answered your question at all,
It
but
does.
that's kind of,
Well,
yeah,
it
that's kind of
does.
where I'm going with
Well,
that.
not a ramble, but it does because sometimes it's hard when people say to you, hashtag love thy neighbor. Well, sometimes I can't love my neighbor if I don't love myself. I can't love my neighbor if I'm not willing to put myself out there to my
Mhm.
neighbor. So really, sometimes I think it's not even love thy neighbor, it's love thy neighbor and learn yourself at the
Yeah.
same time. And so right now, what are you trying to do, to push this, initiative forward?
Yeah. So pop is one of those things. I love that in pop we're advocating for a lot of different organizations that are inclusive. That's something that obviously I'm very passionate about, and so I love that we get to advocate that way. I work with a lot of inclusive organizations, and speak with them, work with them. I also have been working a lot with my school district, so I've been able to be a part of a panel uh, to my entire school district speaking about inclusion. Working in my school right now, I'm leading a girls group at my school, a club, to help build self-esteem in young women, specifically diverse young women. So a lot of different pieces that are interacting at once to, you know, get the word out there, talk about how our actions impact other people.
But Maddie, people will tell you, but inclusion brings exclusion because what about the rest of us that are getting left out of this loop of inclusion? What about us?
I love having this conversation because the beautiful thing about inclusion is there's room for everyone. It's not slices of pie. It's not, oh, you getting more means I get less. It means that we all can be included together. The bubble just gets bigger. The more people we include, the more space we have for other people. So I love interacting with people and helping them understand that, because there is room for everyone to have a space and to have a voice. And it's not um, giving someone else rights does not take your rights away, right? That's the whole premise behind the word rights. So I love being able to tell people that, because I love when that kind of light bulb goes off.
And so you mentioned something very interesting that having rights don't take them away from others. But, Maddie, I think we do lose something. I'm losing my spot to X. I'm losing this to Y. I'm losing this to Z. So, how can it be inclusion when you're just giving it?
Mm. Um, and that is the thing. There does need to be some sacrifice for inclusion to happen truly. Um, there is a group in power, so to speak, that does need to give up some of that power for people to be included, and that's just how it works, right? But no good change has ever happened without people in power giving something up, right? Um, Thinking about the fact that we're all human, right? We all deserve the same things, the same experiences, the same liberties, the same access to certain rights. And so anything that we can do to make sure that those people have access to those rights is going to make everyone better in the long term. It may not feel like it now. It may feel like you're giving something up, or that you're losing something, but in the long term everyone is going to be better for it.
Absolutely. So that is pretty interesting. So, so what is your so going forward, what is it that you want to do within the next, I mean, do you have some short-term goals for your, for your initiative? And if they are, what are you looking to do?
Yeah, so most of my initiative goals are focused within the Miss South Carolina organization, but I also have some long-term goals. I do definitely want to do some consulting work with different local businesses to help them with diversity initiatives and inclusion initiatives, not just racial inclusion, but also special needs inclusion, also LGBTQ plus inclusion, all of these things that go into under the inclusion umbrella. Definitely working within my school district to help better prepare teachers with resources for inclusion, because even in education, in one of the most inclusive professions, there's still a lot of work to be done. Um, and further than that, providing the general public with as many resources as possible and helping them have access to, I do a lot of advocacy that way through social media, um, access to websites, access to videos, helping people understand what inclusion looks like, how they can actively be promoting inclusion in their everyday lives, things like that.
So the good thing that comes from this is for most people, when the word DEI is mentioned, the first word that pops into people's minds is race.
Mm,
But I'm so glad that you broke that out to say, no, it's not just the talk about race that gets into that conversation. And I think, I love this being my own podcast. I can say whatever the hell I want. So here we go. You know, I think we have some very narrow-minded people that, like you said, they're afraid of giving up power and
mhm.
opportunity to those that they think don't deserve it. But
Yeah,
that was the whole push and the whole fight for a lot of things to open up doors for us. And some doors might be a little bit more controversial than others. Some
oh
doors
yeah,
might require a harder sledgehammer. But I do believe at the end of the day, we don't get weaker by bonding and banding together. Sometimes we get
yeah.
a little stronger when we get there. But sometimes one of my friends said this to me today. He said, Keith, it's not always the word, it's the tone.
Mm,
And what tone are we setting? And so I'm always interested. I look at both sides, of these discussions, and I love that love your neighbor. I love that hashtag love your neighbor. That's catchy.
you.
And I
Uh-huh.
think it's catchy and it helps people and it forces people to ask questions. Why? And then you get to talk about that reason why. This is why, I think this. This is why I want to do it. And I know you'll get pushback. There's pushback in everything.
Oh yeah.
And but that's okay. Pushback is good. Sometimes you got to figure out, what that opposition looks like, to make a better picture. And
Oh yeah.
so I appreciate, that zeal because everyone may not.
Thank
I mean,
you.
look, everyone's not going to always. It's like in a vote. 50% of the people aren't going to get with you. 50%
Right.
are going to get with you. And from that 50 that get with you, 25% of them are just watching you, to see
Right.
how far you get. And so by the time you whittle it down, you're probably down to that faithful five, that are really
Yeah.
rolling with you, like four flat tires. They are just down to the ground with you. And
Right.
so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and one of my favorite statistics to pull out is there's been several studies done that have shown that in the workplace, homogenous groups tend to be less creative and less productive than diverse groups. So when these studies were done, when they've done homogenous race pairings, gender pairings, um, socioeconomic status or educational groupings in these studies, the diverse groups always outperform the homogenous groups. So it shows that there really is strength in diversity, and that we are more effective when we promote diversity and when we include everyone.
So for anyone that wants more information about what you're doing, Twitter, I mean X, Instagram, everybody's got alphabet soup here. Everybody's got something. Facebook, website. How can they find out more about this initiative?
So you can follow me on Facebook at Miss Midlands 2023, Maddie Kaufman, or on Instagram at Miss Midlands SC. And I don't really do X, so those are the two places that you can really catch me. But that's where I do the majority of my advocacy. Still working on the whole website thing, but yeah.
So you said Miss Midlands. So is
Yes.
that your fancy title?
That's my current title. That's the
That
one that I just competed at Miss South
really?
Carolina in. So I'll give it up in January or February of this year.
Uh-huh.
And then if I choose to go back to Miss South Carolina, I'll have a different title.
Really?
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
nice.
So my first year I was Miss Blythewood, then I was Miss Capital City, and I was Miss Capital City for 2 years because of COVID. Then I was Miss Charleston, then Miss Midlands, and that's where I'm at now.
Man, so you rocking some tiaras, huh? She got
I have quite a few. I have several that I've accumulated at this point, and they're sitting in pretty boxes in my room.
oh man, see, you got to break one out for us. You got to.
I know I should have. If I had it with me, I'd pull it out and show.
Yeah, just like, yeah. See, look at me. And the
Oh,
good
I
thing is that,
love wearing them.
and the funny thing is, no one would see what it looks like but me. I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry, world, you don't get to see the tiara. So
Plenty of pictures on the internet
there's
though,
plenty of
so
pictures.
yeah, I'm never one to hold off on posting a crown pic, so
so
I gotta
so
show off the sparkle.
so as we end, that was pretty cool. So Maddie with her crown, like crown me miss. So
Yeah, I'm if I can upgrade my if I could upgrade my crown this year to the Miss South Carolina crown, that would be great.
well, look, you can do it. So you got a lot of supporters behind you. So
Thank you.
absolutely. So we're gonna get out of here with something funny. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions based on your nerdiness, and
Okay.
so this is how we're gonna end. Favorite Harry Potter character?
Oh no, this is so hard. Um go it changes every day. So you could ask me this question tomorrow and it would be somebody different. But for all intents and purposes now, it's gonna be Sirius Black.
Sirius Black. All
Mhm.
right. Why Sirius Black?
Um, well, in the movies, he's played by Gary Oldman, and I just love Gary Oldman. Um, so I just love that. And I think also just the bond that he and Harry have, being his only like real or the closest thing that he ever gets really to a father figure, um, that's related to him. Um, and I also love kind of his character arc from being, you know, misunderstood, Harry thinking that he participated in killing his parents all the way until, you know, um, the end where he gets kind of his almost redemption, but not really because the world never knows. But
Mhm. Favorite Star Wars character?
ooh, okay, since this is no holds barred, I'd have to say Padme because I think she's a badass, like truly. I think Leia is too, but I am like I'm a girl's girl and I just love and her outfits. Oh, I just love her.
those outfits were cool. You know, if you could see my screensaver, I would tell you, Luke, I am your father. That's my
I know,
favorite.
and I feel bad picking a prequel character, um, but she's just so cool. I can't not pick her.
And last but not least, your favorite Avenger.
Captain America, always. I've
Oh,
always been a Captain America girl, and I even in Civil War, I wanted to dislike him because I was like Team Iron Man, but I just love him. I just love him. And I can't, but I will say that with like the newer movies, um, I'm starting to like Doctor Strange a little bit more. I'm obviously Black Panther, like I'm starting to like a lot more characters because there's more of them. So
and see, I'm gonna leave it like that. Maddie's character choices for the evening. So, everybody, go out there, discover what Padme was wearing.
her outfits are amazing.
Find out about the killer outfits. You have to be like Ant-Man in the movie. Man, that's America's ass.
Yeah, exactly,
When he talks
exactly.
about Captain America
Classic line. Yes.
and the House of Gryffindor. I tell you, there we go.
There we go. Nerds for the win.
No, hey, nerds win. And so there is no better way to end on that good note. And Maddie, thank you for spending a few minutes with me to kind of a little bit about you and what you're and about that platform. And then everybody check her out. She says she's on Facebook and Instagram. So get out there, like her, follow her, and see what's going on. Just a tidbit next week. We're gonna have something also. Well, not even next week. It's Thanksgiving. So everyone, happy Thanksgiving out there from the podcast. And I'll probably have something for you for Black Friday. So Black Friday is gonna be another podcast is gonna hit you, but we're not gonna talk about shopping at all. So so Maddie, thank you again for joining me. It has been a pleasure. And everyone, that's been Let's Have a Talk with Keith. See you next time.